Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Orange Butterfly Effect. Today, I am here with an absolute powerhouse, Dr. William Ramey. Will, welcome to the Orange Butterfly Effect.
Michelle, thank you so much for having me. You are too kind with that introduction. I really do appreciate being here and look forward to the conversation.
Oh, just wait. I have a laundry list of things to say about you in a moment. I might need to take a big inhale and exhale first. I used powerhouse because you are indeed that, but let me formally introduce you, okay?
Sure.
All right. So, Will, you are a former U.S. Army officer, Bronze Star recipient, corporate leadership coach, keynote speaker, Executive MBA Adjunct Professor at Drexel, host of the Leadership Decoded podcast, father and husband. What did I miss?
Yeah, I don't know. You covered it. When you list things out like that, it makes it seem like a lot. But at the end of the day, I'm just a human doing what I think is best and want to do. So
And
yeah, that's it.
I'm going to ask you about your why in a moment, so I'll prep you for that. But I also really wanted to thank you for your service in addition to thanking you for being on the podcast today.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. So let me go to your why. So you know that I consume your content. That is how I found you. I felt like I already knew you through your podcast and through all the great work that you do on LinkedIn. And I have some common themes that I've pulled just from consuming your content. And the first one is your ability to empower others cross generationally. So I'm
Um,
identifying your why as empowering people, but I would love to hear from you. How did you go from being 24 and overseeing, what was it, 300 soldiers to now being in corporate leadership and expert in this world? What is your why?
oh my goodness. My why is really to help people understand and see that leadership doesn't require a title. Everybody has the inherent capability to lead others so that they can step into whatever it is best for them and lead themselves, lead others, and lead with purpose. So if you distill it down, I really want to help people find their inner leader so that they can have the best life that they can. Um, that in that Michelle is come a long way. I started in the military when I was 17. I enlisted in the National Guard, and I had to have my parents' signature. So I
Mm.
remember the day very, very well because it was my 17th birthday. The recruiter was sitting at our dining room table, and my mom and dad were there with me and signed that paperwork. And from there, that's where I really started that journey into teamwork, team development, and leadership. But looking back, I've played on baseball teams, I played on sports teams, I was in marching band, and I was always drawn to this idea of working together for something greater than you could do on your own. But the
Mm.
military is what taught me more about serving and serving others and bringing people together for not just a common purpose, but a shared belief in something bigger. So my journeys in the military took me to some far-reaching places. I finished my time at college. I got my commission and was married, and I went to Fort Irwin, California, Colorado Springs, El Paso, Fort Bliss, Texas. And I deployed in 2005, and that was where I got pulled into being an executive officer for a company of 300 soldiers, and I also had an additional duty of leading a maintenance recovery team. So I started to see these different dichotomies and different things pop up with how do you get people to trust you? How do you get a group of 18 to 35-year-olds come together, put their lives at risk in order to save, protect, and help other people and put themselves in harm's way. The average person off the street is just not going to get that. So I started to be very curious about teams and people. And what I found throughout my career, I've been very fortunate, very, very fortunate to be put into positions of formal leadership where I'm responsible for other people. So understanding and having experienced teams where you don't have trust and there may be destructive leadership behaviors from above, and being on teams that truly thrive. Those teams that thrive are ones that are collaborative, supportive, caring, genuine caring, concern for one another. And leadership tends to ebb and flow within those teams. So what I took really from that was I wanted to learn more about leadership. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to take those experiences that I had and kind of crack them open,
Mhm.
which then got me to that next stage in my career. I've had a few other positions along the way, but really fast forward to 2019, that's what brought me to Drexel University. And that's where I started my journey in their executive DBA program, Doctorate of Business Administration. I wanted to understand more about leadership team dynamics so that I could start my company in order to serve others and provide them research backed, evidence based approaches to leading, to building positive teams. Because when you have that positive environment, you can accomplish anything. So that's really where I took I took my multifaceted, multi-pivoted career to a point to where I wanted to marry my experiences, my understanding and academic approach to leadership, and turn it into something that's tangible, useful, and beneficial for people.
Well, Will, it is so clear that you are living in alignment. And it seems like leadership was innate to you. And I like to have this conversation in the classroom. Are leaders born or are they made? What do you
Yeah,
think about that? Because my opinion is that you're making leaders in the
yeah,
work that you're doing. So talk me through how would you answer that question?
yeah. That's a great question, and research has been trying to answer that for decades and decades.
Mm-hmm.
My personal opinion is leaders are shaped. So when they're
I love that.
shaped, like you have a set of skills that are within you. Some more than others, but those experiences you have, you know, did you play on a team growing up? And did you help somebody learn something? Well, that's influence. That's leadership. Did you play on a team growing up and you took a secondary role so that somebody else could teach you something? Well, that's followership. Did you have to work together to create something and communicate and call different plays or cover, or I played baseball, so back each other up? Well, that's teamwork. So all these different experiences I think that you go through help shape what type of leader you want to be, and help bring out if you want to be and have a desire and a motivation to lead. So the experiences you seek, the experiences you're put in, combined with that innate drive and those characteristics, I think help bring that out for people. So I think you're born with a personality and a set of personality. I think that can be shaped a little bit over time. I think the skill sets, the abilities you need to lead, emotional intelligence, resilience, adaptability, communication, um, vision, all those things, those can be strengthened and grown if you're in the right situations, if you have the desire to grow them. So it's almost like, are leaders born or made? I'd like to think about that in ways of, does leadership stay dormant or does it get activated
Oh, I love that.
in
I'm going to
somebody,
write that
right?
down.
so so it's in you. Is it dormant or is it activated? And if it's activated, how are you using it? Are you using it for good? Are you using it for positive? Are you using it for personal gain? Because what I found in my research was interesting was we have constructive and destructive leadership.
Yeah.
So you can, I mean, that's a whole conversation. So are you activating those leadership skills and abilities and traits? Are you using them for good? And are you using them for personal gain? Because then you'll start to spiral and cycle, and different things will happen there. But yeah, think about it that way. Is leadership dormant? Is leadership active?
And I love that you use the word shape and active because that's where we're going. Another theme that I pulled from your content that I think is really special about the way that you approach leadership is you make people feel like they have a choice, an
You do.
agency in activating their ability to lead or in activating whatever it may be. So, can you
Right.
talk to me about how or why you weave that into your teachings?
Oh, for sure. So retrospection is a great thing. And when I was going through that doctoral program, I came across the concept of shared leadership. And shared leadership is really this emergent team dynamic where leadership and followership can ebb and flow based on a situation, based on what's best for the team in that situation and it ebbs and flows between people. So, what I see is we do have a choice. We have a choice to step up. If we think of leadership as a social process, and we think of leadership as not a person, but a process, and it's a process of influencing others towards a
Hmm.
shared goal or objective. You can do that in a number of ways. And there's no one person that has the right way. If you have a team of leaders, then you can flex and leverage the collective intelligence, the collective skill set, the collective leadership of that team. So it's not to say we need leaderless teams. It's not to say that everybody leads. It happens over time. So what I try to bring to my work is this concept and idea of shared leadership, where what's best for the situation. I'll share a story of myself. When I led my team in Iraq, I led a maintenance recovery team, and I was not a mechanic. I was not a heavy equipment operator. I was not all of the functional experts we had on our team. I never held their position, but I'm the person responsible to lead. Lieutenant, rank, officer in charge, go, right? Geez, that's kind of daunting because I don't have subject matter expertise. Can't rely on that. I have positional authority. Do I really want to rely on positional authority in this
Right.
situation? Sometimes. I have responsibility. I've got access to resources. And I've got the power of communication. So what I found was, if I bring people together and I acknowledge in my humility and say, I don't know as much as you. You're the expert. You're the expert in this. You're the expert in that. You're the expert in this. When these situations happen, you have the lead. I expect you to step up. What do you need from me to help you feel comfortable doing that? What resources do you need? Is everybody else on the team clear of their roles and responsibilities? Because what we found was we were out on site. We've got so many different things happening all at the same time. And we went out with about a team of 20, but I had pockets of leaders and followers. If we all relied on me, single authoritarian, top down driven leader, we'd probably still be out on some missions trying to figure out what we're there to do, right? Things would have slowed down. We wouldn't have been successful. So, leading differently, understanding things like collaboration, understanding that different perspective is going to lead to conflict and that conflict is good because you get creative solutions from it, understanding that you may not have all the answers. So, you have to be humble and embrace that
Hmm.
helps different people bring their voice to the table. So I believe that everybody has a voice to be heard that should be heard. I believe that everybody has their unique perspective, skill, and experience. And under the right circumstance, the right time and place, they have the ability to lead others through that based on what they've experienced.
So I love how you're bringing in this relational approach and all of the interpersonal skills that are involved with both being a leader and followership. What is your opinion on how lonely we are?
Oh
Not just in
boy.
the United States, but globally, because of course in corporate America and with the consultations that you do, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of people are working in silos and may not be having that experience where they can team in the beautiful way that you just described. So what advice do you give when you feel like there isn't that ability to really connect in the way we are right now?
Yeah, first and foremost, I look to find your peers that are out there that are in your similar position, because that would be something that you might want to consider to be your first team, is that peer leadership group, because they understand the struggles. They're probably share some of the same stressors. They share some of the same situations that they've been in. So find your peers that are in formal leadership positions. Seek them out and build your support network, build your coalition of thinkers and change makers and people who are taking on that big rock and putting it in their backpack and saying, I'll lead, I'll be the appointed one, and carrying the weight that comes with that. So find your network, find people, and start to have those real conversations. The second piece there is really, I think, protecting your well-being and your wellness as a leader. So you may not have, it is lonely. I have found myself in that one, like, geez, I'm the team leader and I need to keep a little bit of distance here,
Yeah.
connect enough with my team to be knowledgeable and caring and empathetic, but not so much to where it starts to cloud my judgment, decision making, or looks like I'm favoring a person or two. So to do that, you have to take time for self, which is contradicting kind of what you're told and what you're brought up as a leader. Um, you have to be able to take time to reset your brain so you don't face decision fatigue. Take 5 or 10 minutes throughout the day and find time to just ground, do box breathing, uh, you know, eliminate the stimulus around you so you can shut that function off and reload your cognitive thought. Find time throughout the day to get vitamin D, fresh air, and sunshine. Make time throughout the day to move your body and be active in whatever way, shape, or form suits your needs. So physical, physiological, mental health protection, get your sleep, eat healthy. All of that plays into how you show up for your team so that you can take on those stressors of leading. So now you have potentially like an individual wellness routine combined with a network of peers that understand that what you're going through. Make time for those coffee chats, those check-ins with those peers so that you can show up and lead at your very best. It's tough.
It is, and it's like our content aligned this month because I started September interviewing guests about training for life. And I just listened to your last episode of your podcast, which was about well-being and some of the things that you were just speaking to. And I felt like it was perfectly rounding out September for me because it is something that we forget as leaders, the need to invest in ourselves just as much as we would invest in our team. So I'm so glad that that's a topic that people are talking about because I think it's something that has been forgotten or maybe is just behind the curtain in too many cases.
Yeah, and we're taught, the idea of servant leadership and servitude and put others first and put other and there is a tightrope walk with that where you want to put others first. You want to make sure everyone on your team has the resources they need and they have the information they need. But if you can't find time then to take care of yourself and you fall back and you fall down, then who's leading? Then who's leading your team? Hopefully, the team of leaders will step up, right? And if you do things well, they will. But the idea of push, 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 drive, drive, drive. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll check one more email. I'll stay up and burn the midnight oil time and time and time and time and time and time again. You get in a vicious cycle where you're not bouncing back. You are not
Mhm.
coming back on Tuesday as good as you were on Monday. And by Friday, forget it. That wears over time. So build those routines in and throughout your day so you can stay at optimum performance. You can stay at your premium performance for yourself. So that you can serve your team.
Yeah, and that brings me to my last theme, which I think will be a major part of our conversation, and that's you are always using the term thrive. You use it in your titles, you use it throughout your content, and I know we're going to talk about meta skills in a moment, but in the episode where you introduced meta skills, you talked about those people that we know in our lives that are not just surviving, but they're thriving regardless of the situation. They always seem to just be spot on. And that was the first time that I was really exposed to meta skills in a formal way. So I took a lot from that episode. And that's why I knew that I had to have you on the show to talk about that because I think it's so powerful to pull this all together that we can choose that choice again to thrive by really honing in on meta skills. So, can you tell us more about all of the above?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first and foremost, the work I did in my dissertation was about how to counter abusive supervision. And it came up during a very casual conversation with a faculty member at Drexel. And I was describing my work environment and what I had accepted as normal. And he's looking at me, shaking his head. It's like, this is abnormal behavior. Like, he's starting to take notes. He's asking more questions. You got to pull this thread. You got to tell me more about this. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, most people, I think, are I hope you're doing well. Well, what is well? Is well good enough? I'm just surviving my week. I'm surviving my week until the weekend. Well, why?
Mhm.
This idea of thriving is a choice that we have to be in control of, to be optimistic, to make our choices, to stand and land in a framework of I want to accept the challenges that are coming my way. I'm not going to perceive them to be a threat. I'm going to do what I need to do to help serve others. I'm going to find fulfillment, which is longer lasting meaning from my work. I'm going to find purpose in my work, which is going to help me over those roadblocks. I'm going to be able to take back control because I don't want to just survive my work. I want to thrive in it. I want to be fulfilled. I want to have joy. I want to have purpose. I want to know that I'm contributing to something bigger. I want to have the ability to go out and paddleboard or play around at golf or meet up with people and do what it is I want to do. Um, so to me, that idea of thriving, that's what we should be reaching for. The enjoyment is in living in living a life well lived. So I don't want to just be well. I don't want to just be good enough. I want to be thriving, which means different things to different people. You get to define what that means for you. So this idea then of, okay, how can we go from these different, complex and daunting and um, just difficult work environments, which could be caused by a number of things, toxic people, challenging tasks, lack of resources, you name it. How can I shape myself and grow and develop myself to have a set of skills that I can use in any circumstance? And really this, Michelle, is for me goes back to every team that I have led throughout my professional career. I have never actually done the work, the function of the team that I've led. So I've led teams in the Army, satellite equipment operators. I've never been a satellite equipment operator. I'm not an IT specialist. I'm not a signals analyst, but I had all three of those types of people on my team. A maintenance shop. I've never been a mechanic. I don't play one on TV. I did not stay at a Holiday Inn last night. I can't do it. It's not my forte. Warehousing teams. I've never been a material handling equipment operator. So what I found was where people focus on technical skills, you have to have that. You have to have that technical expertise. But I think what serves people, specifically people in leadership roles, even better, uh, are these meta skills. And these meta skills, they're things that are foundational, timeless, and transferable.
Mm,
They
yeah.
stay with you. Those skills, and if you think of it in terms of skills are something that can be grown, strengthened, increased over time with effort, education, and experience, those skills apply to any situation you find yourself in for the most part, right? So if I can focus on building my meta skills, I can deal with stress better. I can overcome challenges. I can see the world differently. I can pivot when a curveball gets thrown at me. And if I have meta skills combined with a technical expertise, whatever my craft is, boy, now you're really cooking. You're cooking with Crisco, as we used to say in the Army. You really start to think about I'm growing my technical expertise, I'm mastering my craft, and I'm developing myself, my mindset, my framework around what's going to help me lead a healthy, optimistic, positive life.
And how? That is we need to know how. Where do you start? For anyone listening who maybe let me give you a few scenarios, right?
Sure.
Someone who is at that stage of maybe being burnt out and they haven't been focusing on their well-being. Maybe someone a college student who is in the midst of developing and honing their technical skills, but really they want to take it to the next level as well. Or someone who's in between and doesn't really have the time, but is willing to commit the time if there was just a step by step process. What is the how here?
Yeah. So, let's talk about examples of what meta skills are. So, meta skills, like, for example, adaptability is a transferable skill. And adaptability meaning that you can pivot and move with change as your environment around you changes. So somebody who, scenario where you're very regimented in your routine and on your way to work, all of a sudden there's a wreck. Uh, Nobody hurt, but there's a wreck on I-80 And now all of a sudden your GPS went from 8:30 arrival to 8:50 arrival. And oh no, I'm going to be late for that meeting. I don't know what to do. And you get this anger that comes into you, and instead of doing something, you just sit there and ruminate and marinate in that feeling of, it's out of my control. What am I going to do? I can't believe traffic is backed up. It's a great chance for you to practice adaptability. Maybe you go on your GPS and say alternate route, right? Or maybe you start to look at how can I off ramp here and then make a plan. And then maybe the next day you figure out, let me look at 3 different ways I can get to work in the morning and start looking at different routes to plan for and stay ahead of what may come. Maybe in that moment, I know who can cover for me or who I need to contact, and I call my boss and let them know what's going on versus just explaining what happened when I get there. So when you think about like adaptability, being able to change and pivot, the how is in understanding what that meta skill is and looking for ways to practice it. And where you look at ways to practice it is reflect back on, once you understand what the skill is, reflect back on situations where you may have needed it and didn't have it, or you may have used it and didn't know it. And like,
Mm,
that's what that is. My research helped me look back on my career in leadership and realize, that's what was going on. Now I have a construct and a
yeah.
definition and a how. So when we think about things like resilience is a meta skill, being able to bounce back from a setback. Throughout your day, you will either look for, find, or get thrust into opportunities to bounce back from setbacks. It's when you combine things like adaptability, resilience, and then I'm going to throw one more in, emotional intelligence, and specifically with emotional intelligence, self-awareness of your emotions and self-management of your emotions. When you start to become, identify areas in your life that you want to get better. I wish I was better at task management. I wish I was better at time management. I wish I was better at, I don't understand why I get so upset in these situations. Identify the construct, those meta skills that are like foundational and follow you. And then start to become aware of it. Here's the how. You start to become aware of what that construct is. Then you start to look at situations in your life where it shows up. And then the reframe comes. Well, if it's showing up, when did I not do something well, and when did I do it well? Because then you'll understand what emotion was I feeling when it didn't go well.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're starting to stack. What was I feeling? Acknowledge that emotion. Why was I feeling that way? Why was it so important for me to do this, do that, whatever the outcome is? And then now you can start to pinpoint, because when that feeling comes back and washes over you again, now you'll be able to recognize it quicker. You'll be able to employ your tactics to be more adaptable, to be more resilient, to be more disciplined in those moments. So those meta skills tacked on to self-awareness is really where you start to practice that. And when you become cognizant of it and you become aware of it, then you're going to recognize those cues in your environment, and you'll either be able to mitigate the impact of those cues, or you'll be able to get ahead of those cues with a lot shorter trigger. So that, to me, that's the how. I've gone through journaling, and you can do bullet point. So if I'm working on empathetic listening, right? Practicing empathy, I'm going to go throughout my day and think about and recall the engagements I had with people. I'm going to jot notes. How do I think that went? How much time did I spend listening? Did I understand what that person was feeling? Did I ask them how they were feeling? Did I understand what the ask was, or did I just move through them onto the next person holding a ticket, at the counter, and move through that problem to the next? So by journaling and then recalling, you're starting to build your awareness. Then you can take that into future or present and future situations and apply what you went through. But the trick to that, Michelle, is you've got to be honest with your self-assessment. You've got to acknowledge that situation did not go as planned. I own what I screwed up. I'm not putting blame on anything else, because you're trying to develop yourself. Be honest with yourself. Don't give yourself straight A's if you're a B plus or a C minus. Give yourself that C minus, understand why, and make a plan for what you're going to do about it.
Yeah, I think the reflection piece is key. And your episode on meta skills reminded me of advice that I received from one of my mentors that I do every day. And to me, it almost, when I say it out loud, it sounds silly, but then we could talk about how powerful it actually is. But one of my mentors told me that his name is Don Schalk. So, Don, if you're listening, hello and thank you.
Shout out Don. Yep.
Shout out Don. When he takes a shower at the end of the day, he asks himself three questions. What did I do well today? What didn't I do well today? And what can I do better tomorrow?
Yeah.
And he gave me the advice to do the same thing. And it's just those three questions at night when I'm taking a shower. I ask myself that. And of course, then I focus on the what could I do better tomorrow? It takes less than 5 minutes in most cases. And I'm not documenting anything. Of course, I'm in the shower. So I'm just thinking about it, reflecting, and then moving on with my evening. But I think for anyone listening that may feel overwhelmed with a lot of self help or professional development advice, it can be that simple. Do you
It does.
agree?
Yeah. Michelle, 1000%. Simplicity, simplicity is what's going to have you um, be able to maintain that habit. If you're overcomplicating things, if you're getting a mile deep into something, you can't ritualize it. You can't routinize it. Three simple questions queued up, and it's queued when you go into that shower, right? So now you're getting into James Clear and Atomic Habits and
Yep.
some of those
Mhm.
things, right? So what's my cue to practice? What's my practice, and what am I going to do with it? I absolutely believe that you have to start small. You have to start small with a manageable step. What did I do well today? What didn't I do well today? What do I want to do better tomorrow?
And I know, so
Simple enough.
and I think the more, and then the step above that, which you mentioned when you were talking about practicing these meta skills, is asking someone else almost those same questions, but to give you a review. And I think that can be very vulnerable. So can you
Yeah.
talk us through maybe how you can have someone else check you or advice that you have for having that type of conversation?
Yeah, sure thing. So I think do work with teams, I give them a reflection guide at the end, and a lot of those three questions in some way, shape, or form are there. But I also add in who are you going to involve, and when will you start?
Ooh, big
Right. So
questions. Mhm.
what didn't I do well? What did I do well? What do I want to do better? Who do I need to involve, and when am I going to start? Right. So that completes the action plan. You've got to have nobody gets to where they are alone. So having an accountability buddy, a partner in crime who will show you the mirror and help you through it. Gosh, that's critical. You find somebody you trust, find somebody you know who won't just allow you to vent without finding solutions. Because that venting of emotion is good, but it can spiral. That person is going to allow you to vent, but then help pivot you towards what is it that you want to do with this? What's the outcome you want to achieve? How can we achieve it? You've got to recognize in yourself that the vulnerability piece, growth is not comfortable. And I'm sure there's a ton of one slide deep pictures and stuff on there. I probably even posted a slide or two on that myself. But if you get out of your comfort zone, get into your growth zone, and to get into your growth zone, you've got to embrace vulnerability. You have to admit what you don't know, what you're not good at, and you have to be willing to take action on it. That is where you're going to see yourself really start to transform into who you are today and who you want to become tomorrow and in the future. So when you find that person, it's got to be a relationship that is built on trust and mutual support. I have a friend, my best friend is in Colorado Springs. He and I served together. He's a retired Navy chief. And for as much as we laugh and joke and pal around, he'll know when I'm coming to him with something, he will give me his full self to
Mm.
listen, to hear my perspective, and then to give me a different perspective and ask the questions. Find that person in your network. They're there. You may have to cultivate the relationship a little bit more over time, but find that person in your network and just be there for each other. use that person. There are champions out there for you today. Anybody listening, there is a champion out there for you today who wants to see you succeed, who believes in what you're doing, and will give you the candid, radical, candid message that you need to hear day in and day out so that you can get better. You don't have to grow and go this alone.
It's so hard to ask, but once you do it, to your point, having that champion in your corner, I like to call them your cheerleader, it
Yep.
makes the rest feel like an exhale to just know that they exist in your world.
Sure. I did that with when I got into entrepreneurship, when I got my own business. I was so afraid that people were going to be competitive. Like, geez, if I ask this person for help, are they going to see me as a competitor? Are they not going to give me help? Because I really like what they're doing. I want to understand more about what made them successful. So I held off for so long. And then one of my very good friends and colleagues, we met on LinkedIn and we had a conversation. And I said, you know what? We're in the same my own roadblock, my own self-imposed roadblock was hesitant at first, but I said, I'm going to ask her about her business and see if she has any tips or things for me to get started. And she did. And now we've grown and we collaborate, and we partner on work. So you think
Yeah.
about, Michelle, where would I have been if I would have just not been comfortable asking for help? I wouldn't have had opportunities to learn and grow. There's people out there that'll do it. You get just understand what's in your way. Have the conversation about that part of you that is trying to keep you safe and comfortable. Give that part of you what it needs. Put it in the passenger seat, and you take the driver's seat back and go after and get what you want.
I think that is really great advice. So tell me anything else for the how to meta skills before I transition on to my next question for you. Is there anything you think we missed in that discussion?
Um, yeah, I think we hit it at the end there too. Just once you identify things, build it into your routine. Find a routine that works for you that you can go back and look at that. And then I love what you brought up. Then apply to that meta skill you're trying to grow. How did it go well today? How didn't it go well today? What do I want to do differently tomorrow? And just go after it.
And try for anyone listening again that may feel overwhelmed with where to start. Just try that and see
Yes.
how it
The
goes.
first step's the hardest. It is.
The f the first step is the hardest. Okay, so back to thriving. My next question for you, which is based on your morning routine, so funny that we were just talking about routine, is what is it like in the world of Dr. Will Ramey? What is a morning routine like for you? I know you have an episode on this, so I'll link it in the show
Yeah.
notes, but how do you set yourself up for success every day?
Yeah. It starts the night before, but I'll take your question, more literal. So for me,
Yeah.
the the daily routine, I'm an early riser by nature, I think, or by discipline. It's just been ingrained in who I am in my routine. So, I mean, honestly, quite literally, the first thing I'll do, I'll get up, I'll stretch, I'll take a deep breath in. I try to reoxygenate my body, and I start my positive talk. Then it's going to be a great day. I'm going to make it a great day. Let's get after it. And I exhale. I take one more breath in, nice full stretch, open lungs, and then I go. Then I go into the shower, and as I'm going through and I'm having that moment, in the in the restroom prepping for my day. I'm going through what is it that I'm grateful for. Okay, what is it that I want to accomplish? What are the three things I want to accomplish today? Who is it that that I need to connect with? Um, and then I take a moment after I get dressed and come downstairs. I believe in this moment of mindfulness. And for me, it's coffee. And don't ask me why, it just is. But I think there is so many senses um, that get engaged in this moment. So I take a moment. Lunch is all packed up. I have the coffee pot set the night before. It's already brewed by the time I get downstairs. But I take that moment to pour into my travel mug. And as silly as it sounds, I'm listening to that long pour. Uh, I'm smelling that aroma of those coffee beans. I'm letting the steam kind of hit my hand, and my cup's getting warm as I'm holding it and I'm pouring. And when I take creamer, I'm watching that creamer just swirl. And there is absolutely nothing else going on in the world
Hmm.
except that grounded moment. And for me, that's the trigger for, okay, let's go. Get in the car, look in the rearview mirror. I tell myself, you're smart, you're strong, you're successful, you're confident, you're on your path, trust in your purpose, trust the process. Let's get after it and help people today. And boom, car goes in reverse and I'm out the door. Then I'm throughout my day. And the throughout the day, Michelle, I have embraced a very methodical approach to the work that I do in terms of limiting distractions and trying to get into flow state for the tasks I
Mhm.
need to get into. So it's say I'll spare you the details, but um, the calendar is structured in a way where I don't have notifications that pop up. My calendar opens up to my actually Outlook opens up to my calendar, not my email. Calendar's opened. My task for today is open. I set myself then in that workspace for what needs to get done today. It's in front of me. Then I sort through my email. Then I get right back into my task list, and I block myself off about 90 minutes. And is it manager type functions? Is it things like respond to email and invoicing and, financial work? Or is this bigger block for content creation and creative process, which takes a little bit more?
Yeah.
Um, so blocking that time off, using that, and then I use things like brain.fm to try to get the right background noise. Again, no distractions, everything is set, and I can crank through work like nobody's business since I've embraced this. Um, Again, throughout the day, then midway through the day, I'm taking a break with time to breathe, time to reset, time to refuel. Try to make as healthy choices as possible for lunch and breakfast. And then when I get home, I shifted here, recently. I get home, I have an evening workout routine 3 to 4 nights a week, and I don't have a lot of time, so I'm doing high intensity hit type training with weights and circuit training type stuff. Time with my family, my kids, my wife, and then I close out my routine for the day by setting myself up for success tomorrow. What's my to do list? What's my priorities? And then as I close out, I have a small book by my bed. It's my gratitude journal.
Mm.
I
Me
try to
too.
write at least, yeah, right. And it's just such a positive way to close out the day. Because no matter what trials and tribulations and things that happen throughout the day negative, I'm going to end my day on a positive feeling. I'm going to start my day with an optimistic feeling. And the rest that happens in between, I can manage.
How did you optimize? So at the age of 17, when you were just starting your career and your journey to leadership, when did Will
Yeah.
get to this point where you were rising with the sun and giving yourself positive affirmations? How long did that take to incorporate into your world in such a strong way?
Yeah, those are relatively recent. So for me, Michelle, the big shift came when I started my own business, and I'm about 3 years in it now. And what I found was prior to that, I mean, full transparency, I was not living a happy life. Family was great. My work life was not what I wanted it to be, and I would just come home ground down, stressed, which leads to a whole litany of I'll just eat some potato chips and skip my workout. I'm checking my email at my kitchen counter, listening to my family, but am I really listening to my family? Like, how can I possibly be if I'm in this email? Um, so for me, I said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a different way. What is it that I do? Where do I find my most fulfilling times at work? And when I was doing that, it was when I'm coaching people, when I'm having one-on-one mentoring conversations, and when I'm teaching. Okay, what is it from well, if I and someone asked me this question today, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing on my career path now and had no other choice, what would I do? And I'd say I'd be a rhythm guitar player in a band because I love music and entertaining. Love
Love
it.
that.
And playing instruments, right? So that's when it hit me. How can I marry up teaching, coaching, speaking, and entertaining? And what's my niche? And my technical niche, because I don't have a trade, is leadership. So from there, okay, how am I going to carry this weight? Because I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to give control up to somebody else. I don't want to have negative thoughts, linger in my mind, in my body, in any way, shape, or form. So I started trying to understand and read more. I have high blood pressure. I've cracked a tooth because my jaw clenches. It just stress from work will pile up.
Mhm.
So I discovered it was interesting, the Netflix show Down to Earth with Zac Efron and Darren O'Lean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been Beachbody on demand for years because I do fitness is foundational for me. So that piece has always been there since 17. Fitness has always been there since 17 as a way to release stress and care for myself, care for my cardio, care for my strength. Early rise and discipline has always been there in my routine. The drive for performance and growth and achievement has always been in my routine. And what I found was up to a certain point, that got me to climb the career ladder at a very fast pace. But the big void was in purpose, fulfillment, and joy. Okay, I don't want to give up these skills that got me here because they're great skills. How can I live a better life? Let me understand more about how to take care of my body because it's not just food. So Darren Olean wrote a book called Super Life. And Super Life has, the 5 pillars for healthy living. And food is one, oxygen is one, hydration is one, as well as mental health and well-being. Great. Let me start practicing pieces and parts of that where I can. The other piece was I've got to find more fulfillment and be content with the work that I'm doing. And if it's not coming from my employer, I'm going to generate that myself. And what I found was, and you mentioned it early, and I really appreciate uh, the acknowledgement there is working in alignment with my purpose.
Yeah.
Once I bridged that gap, it opened up like this world that I hadn't seen before. Is I don't mind working long hours because it doesn't feel like work because I'm serving somebody through my work. I don't mind traveling across the country to deliver a 3-hour workshop to a team of people who want to learn more about collaboration because I'm helping them. And if they can collaborate, the great work that they're doing in their company is going to be even better. So it doesn't bother me to do that. It doesn't bother me to work late nights and early mornings. So then what I found was, well, I've got to be able to protect myself too. So meeting other people who are entrepreneurs, who are business owners, who were practicing and searching for a healthier, different way to live. These were common threads.
Yeah.
Gratitude was a common thread. Mindfulness was a common thread. Optimism was a common thread. Letting go of what you couldn't control and acknowledging emotions was a common thread. So I worked with a coach from abroad, really helped me find purpose and understand more about emotions. I read Darren Olean's book, Start With Why. uh, a very good friend, partner, and colleague of mine, Van Lai Damone, who works in creative leadership space. She has a book called "What If Pigs Can Fly," and
Cool.
it's really an easy read, but it has a lot of activity in there. And her work helped me discover and become more curious about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, and take those steps. So it really comes down to one thing is I want to lead by example and I want to be the example for others. And I want to practice what works. I want to try what works so that I can share that knowledge with other people to lift them up, to elevate them, to put them on a path for what's healthy and fulfilling and joyful for them.
And not that I am all knowing in any way, but I really do feel like through your content that you are magnetic. And it's
Um,
because you're living in alignment. I know a few people like that, specifically thought leaders that I follow, that I just get this feeling that they figured it out. Do you feel what else do you have left to figure out? Do you feel like you've cracked the code, Will? Because I feel like you've cracked I'm feeling envy.
wow.
I feel like you've cracked the code in your world.
Michelle, that is so kind. That is so kind of you to say, and I do appreciate the encouragement and the acknowledgement there. I have not cracked a code, but I'm practicing. And like leadership is a practice. There are many moments behind the scenes where I question what am I doing? Should I how am I going to grow? How am I going to do this? But what I find is those rituals, routines, and practice that I put in, it brings me back a lot sooner. Whereas 5 years ago, that 5 or 6 years ago, that person would have said, "I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay safe. I'm going to stay
Yeah.
comfortable. I'm just going to just be in the negative and just accept it." Not now. So I think, have I grown? Have I made it farther? Have I discovered and explored and tried new things that work? Absolutely. Am I willing to share those with anybody who wants to listen? I can. This is what's worked for me at my moment in time along my journey. Let me share it with you in case it helps. But for everything that you see outward, for the optimism and the energy and the alignment, that is all true. That really started to come, and I became a lot more comfortable with myself about 3 years ago, when I really took a deep dive into how can I live better. One of the things, and I'll touch on it briefly, one of those things was going to the VA, and I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD. It had always been an underlying thing that was there. But now that I had, much like we talked about meta skills, now that I have, oh, this is a diagnosis. Oh, this explains some of my behavior. Oh, here's what I can do with it. This is where it works out very, very well. Vigilance in certain situations works out very, very well. In other situations, you can feel the fight or flight kind of creep up.
Yeah.
Okay, let me understand more of that. How can I practice ways to stay in connected to my emotion and my feelings? Well, that again, that's a transferable skill that applies. So once I understood and I was able to do something with it, that really opened up. Again, it was another kind of big pivotal moment where now I know more about myself. How can I help others discover more about themselves? Now I know this stuff, quote unquote, this stuff, it works. So being able to show outwardly the positive optimism, energetic, because I love what I do. I found that purpose, and I'm working in that, and that transfer is there. If I could come through the screen and high five you right now, I would, uh, because it just is. It is. You said magnetic,
Yeah.
so people can find that for them. People, you can absolutely do this for yourself. I'm an example of that. If I can get on this path and try something new, if I can make the transition and do that and find success in what I'm doing, and more so success defined on my own terms, purpose defined on my own terms based on who I'm serving and why it's important to me and what's meaningful to me, you can do the same thing. It's possible.
And what thank you for sharing that, number 1, Will, and being vulnerable. I'm sure that resonated with the listeners. Tell if you have one piece of advice with all of that in mind, what advice would you give to someone that is just trying to figure it out? Is it self-discovery? Is it self-awareness? Is it making that appointment? Is it having a coach? What is that
Yeah.
maybe one thing that someone could do?
Yeah, it's going to be a combination of things, but the one thing, to start with is find your why.
Yeah.
And I love Simon Sinek's work. Your why is something that is a statement that is, you know, grounded in your who you want to help, so that, and then fill in the other blanks so that that group or that people can do something, right? So my purpose, my why is helping people step into leadership so that they can lead at their very best at work and in life.
Mhm.
Start finding your why. And once you have an idea, it doesn't have to be perfect. Let go of the idea of perfection. Once you have that, then you can put into action. Let me go ask somebody for help. Let me go find some resources. Well, how might I apply this to a different line of work? But once you have that core that construct shaped a bit, then you can go into your second, third, fourth steps of getting resources, asking for help, because you're starting that journey, and that catalyst, that kinetic catalyst for momentum has been ignited.
Oh, that spark does make the difference. I remember when I identified my why and how powerful that was. And it takes time. We have to be patient as we're
Yes.
exploring because it takes a lot of self-discovery, I think, to get to that point. But when it happens, it is just magic.
Yeah. They say, Michelle, I think I've heard the phrase there. I'm sure you've heard it too. The journey 3 feet from head to heart could take a long time to get there, but when you get there, it's magical.
It is. And you have to start, to your point, be in the driver's seat because you can start the journey from head to heart. You just have to put your foot on the gas, right?
You got that right. Absolutely. 100%.
So, two more questions, speed round. I know we're coming up on the end of our time here. So, I know you gave some book recommendations. I can't wait to read What If Pigs Can Fly. I haven't heard of that before. So, excited
Yep.
to read that. And you talked about It Starts with Why, Simon Sinek, and Atomic Habits. Any other books that you would recommend to
Yeah.
our
So
listeners?
Super Life from Darren O'Lean is a great one for health and wellness. And if someone's looking for a leadership book, I love Shackleton's Way. So Shackleton's Way is a book based on Ernest Shackleton's failed expedition to the South Pole. So bottom line up front, it tells the story of his expedition. It breaks down his different leadership approaches, gives you a business lesson. But essentially, Ernest Shackleton led an expedition to the South Pole. They had to abandon ship. His men were there for 2 years. This is 1919. His men were there for 2 years, and everybody survived.
Wow.
It's a great story that brings out leadership lessons through adversity, through uncertainty, and how he really connected and gave his team purpose and embedded with them to help them survive.
I will add that to my nightstand list. It was not on it, but now it is. So, thank you for that. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
I really like to talk about the ripple effect. So, what have you seen or done that has had an impact, a ripple effect, either in your world, in the community, in your own life?
Yeah, you, I never in a million years thought I would have had a podcast. It was never my intention to start one, and I never would have thought I would have been a speaker. So I think the ripple effect, Michelle, for me is when I engage in um, those conversations and I bring my authentic self and I open up about my story and I open up about things that I struggle with, and I keep things real. Not just here's all the good. I keep
Yeah.
things realistic in that. What I've seen and gotten back is something truly special. And it's not everybody, but it's the person where I was doing a workshop one time and I had a woman who started to cry. So I pulled her off stage, and long story short, I asked her, "Are you okay?" She goes, "I feel seen and I feel heard, and I haven't felt that way in such a long time.
Wow.
And you brought this out." To me, that ripple effect then is pay that forward, because now that person feels a certain way. I've left them with thought, I've left them with feeling, I've left them hopefully with action. So that multiplies when they go back to work and they do something that next. There's going to be a residual sticky, figurative, residual with them. Like when you pull the scotch tape off the walls at Christmas time, right? There's
Yep.
still a piece there. That hopefully it's a positive, optimistic, uplifting piece that I leave with people, and I've seen that go, and I've gotten back people saying, they're gonna start their own thing. They're on their journey now. So, I mean, you can take it as far out as that ripple goes. But you're right. One small act, one small step, one small, moment that you may think is insignificant, you have no idea how far it's gonna resonate with somebody. And to me, that's very
Absolutely.
powerful.
It is, and I love the visual of the tape coming off because you're so right. It's that and it is that stickiness that makes the difference. It is, because it sticks in someone's mind and that then allows them to share, which is, of course, the ultimate ripple effect.
Yeah. I've had people, I do a little Lego deck exercise in some of my workshops, and I've had people come up to me, year or 2 years later. I still have my duck on my desk. It's right there. I still see it. And to me, that just opened my heart to say that, that moment stuck because you have an artifact from our time together that you can reference. It's like it'll transport you back in time. It truly does feel phenomenal.
That is amazing. Now tell me anything else you want to share before I ask the final question of our show.
Oh boy, just for anyone listening out there, just go out and do your thing. Work with others, help others. There's enough out there to go around. Whether you're in work, whether you're in business, whether you're on a sports team, there's enough. Success is abundant. It is not finite. There is enough to go around. Be collaborative, be helpful, be supportive, and just go out and do some good.
Yeah, be open to abundance. I think that is a great final message. And then my last question for you, I usually ask, what is one thing that's brought you joy already today? But I almost want to switch it up for you just slightly. I want to ask you, what's one thing you're going to write in your gratitude journal this evening based on your
Yeah.
day so far?
This conversation, Michelle, I think, and I truly mean that this time together that we spent having open conversation about the myriad of things we talked about. I am very grateful that people want to hear what I have to say, and more importantly, that message is going to hit somebody's ear or eyes if they're watching or listening, and hopefully have an impact. So I'm very grateful to be able to have an impact on people in a positive way. And that brings me joy. And that's what brings me back to doing the work that I do each and every day. If I impact one person, if I have one person from my work take something and learn something and try something and gets better, it's worth it. So I'm very grateful for you. I'm grateful for the opportunity that's going in my gratitude journal tonight. And I am very fulfilled by our conversation today.
Oh, thank you, Will. And you know, I share your content with my students. So I know for a fact that you are indeed making an impact, definitely an impact on me and those in my world. So I thank you right back for that. And I thank you for showing up as your whole self today. I know
Yeah,
I talked a lot about how I find you to be very magnetic and living in alignment, but in our conversation, because we don't know each other well, I just really, really appreciate that you were able to show up as your whole self and share your expertise with us. So thank you so much.
absolutely. Thank you, Michelle.
Of course, and to all of our listeners today, I hope you find one thing that brings you joy. I'll see you back here next week.